Hi. Hi, church. Pastor Ben here again with your daily Devo. I'll be honest with you, this is the third take of this video because the issue is so emotional for me, and I've really struggled with how I want to say what I have to say. If you're anything like me, you're deeply troubled by the national news, everything going on. You're troubled by the fact that some police officers who we ordinarily expect to protect us, keep us safe, watch out for our communities, that a man by the name of George Floyd was died at their hands. But you're also at the same time upset about all the violence and the rioting and the burning and looting, and then when you start reading about all this stuff, there's apparently all kinds of forces behind these protests, and people are using it for the political advantage, and they politicized it, and they're asking for, and it's just craziness out there, right? And we see all these memes flying around on Facebook as we take pot shots at each other. And, we could go into some length about, where all this is coming from and compare it to other times in our history. And trust me, this has a lot of antecedents. This is nothing new. And that's really where I want to go here with this, is because here's a question to ask yourself. Is it the Christian's duty to stand up for and speak out for and protect the weak and vulnerable? And the answer has to be yes. Of course it is. Over and over again in the prophets we see this. The prophets call the nation of Israel on the carpet, and one of the main things that they're upset about is the fact that the rich and powerful are taken advantage of and oppressing the poor, oppressing the widow, oppressing the orphan, oppressing the foreigner, oppressing the whatever, right? And anytime that the innocent or weak are taken advantage of by the powerful, God's upset. He doesn't like that. Book of Micah in chapter 6 says that we are to act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly. And anytime a Christian is not doing that, that's a problem. So if you bring that forward to today, as a Christian, what is your responsibility? If you're rich and powerful, your responsibility is to look out for the not rich and powerful, to advocate for them, to look for ways to help them. If you see somebody else who's rich and powerful, and you have some kind of influence over them, and they are oppressing the weak, you should do something. What? It's kind of hard to understand. That's up to the individual, right? They've got to work through that. The flip side of this, though, is that when you get to the New Testament, you see a different focus. And not once are we told to protest, boycott, stand up to whatever governing authorities. In fact, we're told to do the opposite. We're told to submit to them. We're told to pray for them. We're told to seek quiet lives. We're told to live generously in the face of that. We're told to love in the face of that. And so that puts us in kind of a bad spot, because we've seen some situations where those actions in our history made a difference in our country and in other countries. It made life better for people. So what's the appropriate response? One thing for sure, if we take this down a level, in your own life, what can you do? If you are a person with any kind of power at all, whether that be a boss, a dad, a mom, in an organization of some kind, whatever it is. And if you are using that power and authority for your own benefit and abusing others or abusing that authority, God's not happy. He doesn't like that. If you're still in school, especially, and there are people who are bullying other people, the Christian's responsibility is to say, not when I'm in the room. We don't do that. I'm not putting up with that. Our class doesn't do that. We don't act like that. We don't bully other kids. We don't bully the weak. If you're a jock, especially if you're a Christian athlete of some kind, and people on your team are bullying somebody or picking on somebody, no, not when you're in the room, at least, right? I won't put up with that. That's not funny. We don't act like that. At work, in your family, whatever. You don't put up with bullies. When it comes to the situation on a national scale, my challenge to you, Christians, is just pray about it. I mean, we know very well that police officers and other people in authority abuse their authority. They do it all the time. Not every time, sometimes not even the same guy. A guy will do it one day and not another day. Just like all of us, right? They have their faults. We've got to hold our leaders accountable. There's no doubt about that. We've got to, especially in our country, because that's kind of what our country is based on, is the fact that the average citizen has a voice. But how that voice is used is very important, especially as a Christian. You've always got to act out of love no matter what. You've got to encourage rather than be spiteful. But just ask yourself, when you're posting on Facebook or copying a meme or whatever, is it helpful or is it hurtful? Is it advancing love or is it not advancing love? Is it asking for understanding or is it doing the opposite? We cannot deny that in our nation especially, and I don't want to be too America-centric here, but in our nation especially, we have a long history of hypocrisy, of not living up to our ideals. The founding fathers brought Christian virtues to bear in the founding of our nation, and one of the things they understood was that those in power will abuse it, and so they attempted to mitigate that, but they knew it would be there. And so, recognizing that, we cannot operate under the assumption that our nation is always right every time. We're not. Those in authority are not always right every time. Nevertheless, we live in a tension. We live in a tension between submitting to authorities as God has asked us to do, and recognizing that when they abuse that authority, we've got to call them to account in some way. But some of the stuff I've seen being posted on Facebook is not the way to do that, my friends. And we've got to be very, 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 very careful about the way we express the outrage that we feel. So just stop and pray for our nation. Pray for wisdom on the part of our leadership. And pray also for yourself and ask yourself a really hard question. Are the things I'm saying or posting or writing about or talking about, are they helpful? Are they going to make a difference? Are they advancing love? And if they're not, don't do it. And we just ask you to just really, more than anything, just take a step back and recognize that there's nothing new here, but that you might be able to make a difference in your life in some way by you acting differently. And that's really what the focus of the New Testament was all about. Jesus emphasized that the guy next to you is the one you need to be the most worried about, treating that person with love and dignity and respect. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you watching these videos. God bless you. Just go be the church.